Ono, Janet Carl, and the Inyo 350 board. Very nice work, everyone. All right, so first I'd like to welcome Caddy Jackson, Pastor Caddy Jackson, just to give us a little blessing to get us started off here today. He's been living in Bishop for 30 years, has 3 kids, 6 grandkids, and pastor in our town for 27 years, so no one better to lead us off today. So everyone, yeah, Caddy Jackson.
As we feel the warmth of the sun and as our lungs are filled with the freshness of the air, let's be reminded who gave to us the gift of creation. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is thy name in all the earth, thou whose glory above the heavens is chanted by the mouth of babes and infants. We indeed are reminded this day, O God, that you are the giver of life, that you have surrounded us with the beauty of your creation. You have placed the stars in the night sky to tickle our imagination and to remind us of the vastness of your creation. And you have not stopped there, O God, but you have given us dominion over the works of your hands. You have placed all things under our feet, the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the sea. You have shared with us the power to share with you in creation itself. And we give you thanks for that, even as we acknowledge that we have failed your trust in so many ways, and we have polluted your streams, and we have defiled your deserts with our trash, and we have sucked the oxygen out of the air with our emissions. We ask for forgiveness for the past, O God, and we ask for grace and courage and wisdom as we move forward. We ask for the courage to vote for persons who respect your creation. We ask for the courage to confront our own greed and our own short-sightedness, even as we confront those about us. And we celebrate, even in this time of asking for forgiveness, for the courage of those who stand beside us, the wisdom to give nurture to your creation. We ask all of this, O God, in the wisdom and the power of your creative spirit. We ask it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Caddy. That was wonderful. All right, so I'm very, very pleased to announce coming up here next is going to be Sanabi, Kalina, Isabella, and Letitia doing a ribbon dance with the singer Sage Romero with our group Payanadu.
Pisha Wamoa, Numa, Unani and Sage Andrew Romero. I'm going to go ahead and sing for our Payahunaru ribbon dancers this morning. We're going to start us off in a good way and do a Numa Nuga for you, one of our Paiute dances. It's one of our dances our women do along with the men within the war dance style is to bring strength to the people and give them that core belief of going forward and moving forward with our people. So we're going to do this song for you all. Start us off in a good way. Oh!
Excuse me. I'm Marty.
Yo anayo hanna tiji, 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 yo anayo hanna tiji. Asea mikimana yo enehi mikimana yo hanayo hanatiji 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 Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. I say I'm a kiwana, yo, and a kiwana, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. I say a Mickey mana, yo, and a Mickey mana, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. Yo, na yo hana titi, yo, na yo hana titi. I say a Mickey mana, yo, and a Mickey mana, yo, na yo hana titi. Mano, oh. Sure, thank you.
All right, how special is that? Another big round of applause, these guys. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Sage. Bye, Nadu. All right, and thank you to Jolie Barella for helping get this going here today. All right, excellent. So, next up to the stage, I'm going to introduce to you guys Phil Peaster. Phil has been a fishery biologist for 38 years of his career, worked with A. Stark Leopold at the UC Berkeley campus, has dedicated his life to science and the preservation of species in our community. He founded and serves on the Desert Fishes Council and is just a very influential person to the science of our community. So without any further ado, a big welcoming round of applause for Phil Peaster.
Thank you. Well, hello, everybody. It's a great way to get together here. You know, might wonder what a guy like me is doing here. I first saw Bishop in 1935. Think back on that. I'm 88 years old now. As I think I was 6 years old when I first saw it here. And it's continued to be a love of my life, this whole area on the east side. Science has been a major factor in preserving what we have here on the East Slope. This would be during the early days of the Ronald Reagan administration. Congress passed a law called the Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act, which allowed developers to come in and put a hydro plant on each one of our eastern Sierra streams. At one time, there were about 45 major streams coming off the Sierra into the east side here. And at one time we had 105 applications from people who wanted to dam up these streams and put in hydro plants. We were able to beat that with using good science, something we call the in-stream flow incremental methodology. This also came into effect later on at Rock Creek, where the city of Los Angeles wanted to divert all of Rock Creek into Crowley Lake for hydro projects. We're able to beat that using the same technologies. So there's a direct application here. All of this is statistically based, and I wouldn't call myself too much of a scientist in the normal sense of the word, although I did get a couple of degrees at Berkeley in science. So another good example of science here on the east side would be what John Weyhausen is doing with the bighorn sheep. There are all kinds of scientific applications. They're learning what they are through DNA analysis and so on, plus the on-the-ground preservation activities, reestablishing populations. And so you don't have to look very far, it's there. I think back again, what we might have lost. Can you imagine a hydro plant on each of our East Slope streams, all where people would want to camp and fish and do other like things? I think what we face here today and throughout the nation, throughout the world, are those whose values direct them to making money as fast as they can, as opposed to being concerned with the things that we hold so dear, what bring us here today in Bishop. If you don't have these basic values, you're going to spend your political career or anything else trying to make money for yourself and for your friends. But here, I think this is a great testimony to me to see what we have here today. This is beautiful. Thank each of you for being here. Global warming, of course, is another major point here. You either believe in it or you don't, and usually people who believe in it are those who are most scientifically qualified. Look at that little rascal. So, with that again, first Earth Day I took part in was back at the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point in 1985. This was a wonderful thing. I shared the rostrum there with a very famous botanist named Hugh Iltis. And Hugh had a whole bunch of about 3 inches wide, maybe 2 feet long statements that he would illustrate his points with. And back then things were pretty rough in terms of the environment. And he went into what do you do when you have a project that you just know is bad? People kind of sat there and scratched their head. He reached back and got one of his signs, "Sue the bastards." So, with that, thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil. Absolutely. Let's do something fun. I want to hear anyone who has worked or is working as a scientist. Make some noise. Wow, okay, that was incredible. Also on a fun note, for all the kids, we did get some bubbles, because bubbles are amazing, and they're at a back table there, so make sure you get them and take them on the march and have some fun with those as well. Alright, so next I'm going to welcome Kaylin McQuilkin to the stage. She's a sophomore at Lee Vining High School, has a passion for public speaking and a passion for science. Really came to acknowledge her love of this planet after completing the John Muir Trail, which is a pretty amazing feat to do at age 15. So Kaylin McQuilkin.
Hi everybody, so as you said, I'm Kaylin, and I'm really excited to be here today. It's great to see everybody here, and so I'll begin. Recently, the news has been pretty depressing. At times, it feels almost unbearable. Things that used to be logical have somehow now become impossible. And although I have a lot to say on that topic, I am not here today to talk about why our planet is doomed or why we have no hope of saving our precious environment. That's because I'm here to talk about what I truly believe, which is in fact the opposite. Throughout history, the times when people's voices were heard loudest, when their impacts were biggest, and when the resulting changes were most effective, were actually the times when it almost seemed like there was no hope left. It is in the times when it seems like giving up is almost the best option that not giving up becomes the most powerful way to make a difference. It is in the times when obstacles are plentiful, times like when David Gaines fought to protect Mona Lake, or when the civil rights activists marched at Selma, or when the suffragists went on hunger strike after hunger strike. It is in times like these that the power of perseverance becomes truly world-changing. Not just in our nation, but across the entire planet, it's clear that climate change is the most urgent and most important issue we face. Its effects, which range from melting glaciers to rising oceans to extreme droughts and other weather patterns, are terrifying and disastrous, and they are already taking place across the entire globe. Nevertheless, huge international steps such as the Paris Climate Deal, in addition to the citizen-engaged action of climate activism groups like 350.org, as well as successful protests like those at the Dakota Access and Keystone XL pipelines, have made a large impact and show that the power of perseverance is already beginning to affect our world. However, in light of the recent election, our persistent efforts to combat climate change seem to be falling flat against President Trump as he counters and even shuts down environmental protection and climate action. He has recently issued an executive order to cut President Obama's Clean Power Plan, which was the main way the United States was going to meet its goal, as promised in the Paris Climate Deal, to cut fossil fuel emissions by about 26%. The effects of this terrifying by issuing this executive order, President Trump has essentially pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Deal. The effects of this terrifying executive order are real, global, and disastrous. In addition to this, Trump has also made many other dangerous decisions that are threats to our environment and planet as a whole. He has appointed Scott Pruitt, a man who has questioned whether climate change is human-caused on multiple occasions, as head of the Environmental Protection Agency. He has already taken action to bring back the Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines. He has allowed House Republicans to pass bills which heavily restrict the way the EPA conducts and communicates its scientific research. He has proposed making budget cuts to environmental programs on multiple occasions. So in just a few months, President Trump has already made many decisions whose effects are irreversible. But when things like this make me feel like losing hope, days like today remind me that our world is full of people like us. People who are hardworking, motivated, science-based, and ready to use the power of perseverance to advocate for climate action by continuing to march and protest. By making our voices heard, and by insisting in the importance and value of science. Ever since the election in November, perseverance has become a strong and central theme in my life. Recently, it has become especially clear that the power of perseverance is going to be a key weapon for us to protect our planet in the years to come. But perseverance has always been a strong theme in our nation's history because it gives people the opportunity to change their government and society for the better. This power is evident in thousands of people and situations throughout history. It is evident with Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and the other suffragists who fought for the woman's right to vote. It is evident with Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and the other civil rights activists who fought for civil liberty. It is evident with John Muir and David Gaines, who fought to protect the Sierra we all know and love. Just like these famous historic examples, we must persevere in the battle for climate action and environmental rights. No matter what obstacles may rise in our way, even things as bad as our president who once tweeted, "Man, it's really cold outside. We could use a big fat dose of global warming." We must continue to persevere. History has shown us time and time again that in situations like ours, perseverance is the best and sometimes only answer. History has shown us that the hardest and most important battles in this world will be fought for hundreds of years or more, and we don't have that kind of time. But history has also shown us that the power of perseverance can truly change the world. Today, women can vote and have even run for president. Civil rights have advanced immensely. Mona Lake and Yosemite are both protected and thriving. These accomplishments show that no progress will ever be made if we let failure stop us from continuing on. And they show that no progress will ever be made if we don't believe that fighting for what we know to be right is always worth it. With hard work, determination, and perseverance, I truly believe we can make a difference in the battle for environmental rights and climate action. In fact, I know we can because we already have. That is why we need to continue standing up for what we know is right, despite new obstacles. That is why we need to continue protesting and marching and making our voices heard. That is why we need to continue trusting in the logic of science. That is why we need to continue fighting for what we know is right. And that is why we march today.
Wow! Awesome. Thank you so much, Galen. Wow. I got the goosebumps. Awesome. All right, so one last thing before we wrap up here and get going on the march. Just a reminder to sign in so we can stay in contact with you guys and let you know about future events, as well as on your walk. It's never too much trouble to pick up trash. You know, this is our community. If you see something on the ground, pick it up, because as people are littering, it's up to us, to make sure that we're keeping our community clean. Alrighty, I think that we're ready. Oh yeah, Fran Hunt.
Okay. Yes, So I'm going to close with really inspiring words. Please stay on the sidewalk and be safe.
That's right. All right, so, and most of us folks, oh yeah.
In 1933, a famous climber was killed in the minarets, Pete Starr. He wrote a beautiful poem that was published in the Star's Guide to the High Sierra. Lure of Sierra, wild and free, jewels deep set in shining skies, defiant mountains beckon me to glory and dream in their paradise. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. All right. So before we take off on the march, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Eric Leach here, who's going to give us a couple of final motivational words. But I do just want to remind everyone here to take a moment to really, digest what our speakers have said today and make sure that we're not just doing this as a one-day Earth Day, but that every day is Earth Day, because she's a precious mother and we need to treat her so. All right, Eric Leach.
Crossing guards need to go.
All right, well, those were hard acts to follow. I'll try and be brief. I just wanted to extend a warm welcome to everyone who turned out this morning to support our community, to support the environment, and to support science in general. As I'm sure you know, this day has a rich history stretching all the way back to J. Sterling Morton, that Nebraska planter who in 1872 gave us the first Arbor Day with his passion for trees. And on that day in 1872, Morton wrote, "There is true triumph in the unswerving integrity and genuine democracy of trees, for they refuse to be influenced by money or social position, and thus tower morally as well as physically high above the congressmen and other patriots of this dollaring age." That was in 1872. That statement is every bit as true about science. For science, true science, has no political affiliation. The pursuit of truth benefits all of us, and the scientific method answers to no one. By forging rational hypotheses from meticulous observation, testing predictions in the crucible of evidence, allowing our preconceptions, biases, and theories to burn away until only incandescent truth remains, we gain knowledge with integrity. Politicians may choose to ignore that knowledge in the short term, but the verdicts of science will stand unswerving long after the legacies of those short-sighted congressmen are forgotten. So today, we want to celebrate all of you who practice the scientific method in your own lives, who approach the world with a willingness to learn, to discard your preconceptions if you find them to be wrong. Whether you practice it in your work, or you teach it in our schools, or you just teach it to your children, to approach the world with curiosity and wonder, you are all scientists, for what is science if not the pursuit of knowledge? And I especially want to recognize the community of professional scientists who live and work among us right here in the Eastern Sierra. Those geologists, hydrologists, chemists, survey teams who help to manage precious resources we all depend on, the monitors who protect the quality of the air we breathe, the archaeologists who protect our cultural heritage, the botanists, biologists, and ecologists who manage and maintain the public lands so critical to our local economy, the countless medical professionals on whom we all depend, and the academics who daily inspire us with new discoveries at research stations scattered across our valley and ranges. Whether it's new species of buckwheats being discovered, to tracking the effects of climate change in the White Mountains, to mapping the early universe right here outside of Big Pine. Today we celebrate those tireless workers whose passion for knowledge and commitment to the scientific method enlighten us as a society, free us from superstition, and enrich our lives every day here in the Owens Valley. On that note, we'd ask anybody here who is a professional scientist or who considers themselves a scientist to raise your hands. Raise your hands and come on up. Why don't you guys come on